Good solid
Heard,
clap.
heard that one.
Appreciative. That's a good one. You ready to get started?
There's nowhere else I'd rather be than here with you.
Have you tried using your microphone correctly?
There's nowhere I'd rather be than with you.
Yeah, you got to talk into it to make it work sometimes. Okay. So, in general, when you're looking for a new TV show, how long does it take you to find a new TV show? Like, how much scrolling are you going to do before you find a new movie or a TV show to watch?
I mean, if I don't go into it with a game plan, like if I'm just scrolling, it's not happening. I'm either going to YouTube or I'll either end up on YouTube watching music videos or movie trailers. If I don't go into the night, it's just randomness here. But say I'm watching Scrubs. If I don't go in, if I don't turn on the TV knowing I'm going to watch an episode of Scrubs, if I say turn to my wife and say, "Hey, what do you want to watch tonight?" It's probably going to end up in anything but what you want to watch.
I think that if I'm going to try to find something new, I'm going to scroll on each platform, like Netflix, Hulu, whatever else you got. I'm going to be scrolling for at least 10 to 15 minutes. Like, if there's not already something that I've heard of that's coming out that I want to watch, it's going to take me. Actually, it's not even going to take me 15 minutes. It's going to take me until the next day.
It's once again, it's funny you asked this question because last night I set a milestone in my life. I actually bought a or rented a movie at full price through Amazon because in my mind, and I'm probably 4 years late to this, it's the same thing as going out to the movie theater. It's cheaper because I get to stay at home and I don't have to, I don't have to put up with people. I don't have to put up with popcorn prices. I can just spend the $20 and it's right here in my living room.
But you paid full price. You didn't wait. I wouldn't do that. I would wait for it to come out on streaming. What movie was it that you couldn't wait?
This is embarrassing. I'm sorry. Twisters.
Oh, that's the first movie you're gonna go ahead and pay full price for is Twisters.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it was a great night. It was a great date night with me and the wife. Like we made it work, and it was $20. I mean, listen, I know I'm probably super late to the game on this, and I've rented stuff before, just have never rented anything above $10.
I don't know if I've ever rented a movie outside of like Blockbuster or Netflix when they used to actually mail you the DVD. Like that's the only time I've ever rented a movie, and I would never pay full price for one. That to me
Man,
is like, whoa, that's a commitment.
what
How
a
long
lie!
do you get to keep it?
No, you get 48 hours, and this is per Amazon. Maybe the other streaming services are different, but from the time you purchase it or rent it, whatever, you get a month to watch it. So you get 30 days, but once you watch it, you only get it for 48 hours after that.
Oh, yeah,
So
but how much was it?
it's $20.
Oh my god, you could have just waited and bought it. I'm not an instant gratification person though. I very
Um,
rarely do instant gratification kind of stuff. Are you more instant gratification?
I mean, if I want it, yes. And in that instance, it was about the instant gratification. I mean, the wife and I could have watched a TV show or a movie that we've seen, or maybe something we didn't see that was on one of the streaming services. But if you really want to get that nitpicky, you pay $15 for Netflix anyways. So it's
Yeah, but
it's
you know,
not it's not too far off.
no, and I guess it is a lot cheaper than going to the movie theater. I would never go to a movie theater now. The pandemic completely like ruined that for me. I would never go to a movie theater. Plus, I also feel like they're not really making movies that you go to watch in a movie theater. Maybe Dune. That would have been a good one.
Um, I mean, Twisters is one of those. I mean, it's loud. It's a nature movie. I mean, it's. I feel like that's all they make anymore are movies for the movie theater.
Okay, well, I polled the audience about this question. 8% of people said it takes them less than a minute. I don't really believe that. You've got to already have something picked out. 24% said 1 to 5 minutes. 18% said 5 to 10 minutes. and then 49%, so a huge majority, said more than 10 minutes to find something to watch on TV. I would
Yeah,
agree with that.
I don't believe anybody that's under a minute. That's a no-go.
The only way I would believe that that's actually happening is if you already know what you're going to watch and the thing just came out and you're like, oh yeah, I'll watch that. It's got to be on your list.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a list, I feel like this question doesn't. These are for people that just turn it on, not knowing what they're gonna watch. I will say this, and kind of like what I said earlier. If I do turn it on, I have no idea what I want to watch. It's either gonna be a YouTube music video, some sort of documentary, or a movie trailer.
I go through phases during the week. Like to me, Monday and Tuesday is the documentary kind of days. Like there, I want to see
Okay.
something real, and then I gradually want more and more fiction as I go out through as I go through the week.
I don't have that kind of.
I think I
That's
just
a
realized
little.
what it is. I think I just realized the thing that it is. I think I like to watch more kind of nonfiction stuff on Mondays and Tuesdays because I like the idea that someone's life is worse than mine. Like, oh well, I had a bad Monday, but at least I'm not this person who's like missing in wherever. And then I want to detach from real life as I go throughout the week, so I gradually watch more and more fictional things.
Yeah, not me. I'm all over the place. I don't have one set day for anything. I can watch Starship Troopers tonight, and then Wednesday I can watch Dune, and Thursday I can watch Halloween. Like I'm all over the place. No set days or moods or anything.
I feel like I just went on a journey of self discovery. Like, oh, I didn't know that about myself. Okay.
Did not know that about myself. Was that it? We already on to the shout
Oh,
outs?
that's it. Already on to shoutouts, man. Moving fast.
Moving. All right. John Shaban, Amber Rabaka, Matthew Christensen. I know this isn't a real name, but I thought it was funny. Tubby Mac. I guess it could be a real name. Tubby is not
Some people named
necessarily.
Tubby. There's a
I don't
couple
know.
of people. Like, how do you get that nickname? Like, well, okay.
Well, Tubby. Let's see. Luke Thornburn, Mario Corrupt, Chris DeSantis, Lucas Pellier, Hunter Patton, and let's see. We'll end here on a good old American name, Peter Jones. I guess it could be English too, but
Yeah, that's a pretty. You don't hear a lot of Peters, man.
no,
Not a lot of Peters still around.
not a lot of Peters hanging around. All right, let's talk about some things here. I feel it's only due process if we acknowledge the legend that the world of media lost this past weekend. That being the one and only Mr. Phil Donahue, R.I.P.
That was one of those people that I was surprised to find out that he wasn't already dead. Like, oh, he's still alive.
Okay, fine. I tried acting like I knew. I was also very surprised he was alive still, and also I didn't realize this, like what he actually did for TV and like the talk show and help show genres. He was kind of like one of the founding figures of it.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know anything about it. I feel like everybody's great all of a sudden after they're dead. Right? Like everybody's always great afterwards. It's
Do
always the
you
best.
think?
Listen, I'm a former news reporter and I used to go out to crime scenes all the time. And only one time in like hundreds of crimes, maybe thousands of crimes that I covered where you talk to somebody that something was going on, only once did I have somebody really come forward and say, you know what, he was a jerk. Everybody else was always the life of the party, the class clown, the person everyone could count on, the best guy you knew, funny. Like everybody's
Just
always great when they're dead, but in reality, like anyway, that's no disrespect to Phil Donahue. I kind of
Yeah, that was.
but I just always remember only one time did I have a person that we interviewed about somebody say that person was actually a pretty big jerk and nobody really liked him.
I mean, nobody wants to say stuff about somebody that's dead, right? No one wants to come out and be that person on a soundbite that says, "Yeah, little Johnny was a complete and utter douchebag. I'm glad he's dead."
But if you could somehow view this after you died, would you rather hear like an exaggerated version of you or would you rather hear what people really thought of you? I'd much rather hear what people really thought of me.
No, keep it nice. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I mean, tell me the mean stuff now. I don't want to be, somewhere and have to hear them talk about how angry and bad of a person I was.
Oh, I'd much rather know like what people really thought of me.
No, I'm
Like,
good with
what did
that,
they
man.
really think?
No, I'm good. I don't need. I don't need to know. I don't need to know what that's all about. Just sunshine and rainbows when I eventually die here in 10 years.
Yeah, you're pushing it. You're you're definitely going early. Do you feel like you're gonna go early, average, or late?
Honestly, I think I'm gonna go average.
I think I'll probably get 78 to 82. That's what I'm shooting for.
Well, isn't that
78 to
the average?
82.
Isn't the average like 76 or 7?
I think it's slightly below that. I think it's slightly below that for men.
I mean, listen, much love to my father, but he may be he's not a healthy man, and he is living well into his almost 70s. Um, so I'm pretty confident I'll be at least average, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I want to go slightly above average, but I don't want it to go too long. I don't want to
Doesn't
hit
mean,
90. Even 88, you're like, whoa, man, you're getting up there.
yeah, it doesn't mean that I want to live deep into my years. I mean, you know, anyways, it's kind of a depressing topic. Let's go on to another depressing topic.
Okay, okay.
Um, the news came out over the weekend, maybe late last week, that Matthew Perry, who died a few months ago, that they charged 5 people in his death for basically overdosing him on ketamine. Um, I feel like a terrible human being because when that came out, I literally sat back in my office chair and I went, "Of course." Like, of course somebody was prescribing him it. Like, he didn't just take it because he wanted to. Like, why does this surprise people?
I'm surprised that somebody actually got charged. That usually doesn't happen. So that person must have been really egregious. And like I
Well,
said, like John works in news, I'm a former news reporter, so we do kind of like have a little insight into this. That people usually don't get charged for that kind of thing.
yeah, they don't. But the fact that they charged 6 people, including the main doctor, um, there was just so much surrounding his death of conspiracy and this and that. It's like, no, apparently they were just giving him ketamine to try to take away his anxiety and problems and other things. It's just insane to me that there's still people that are taking to social media that are defending the fact that he was taking this. Like, no, it's not good for you. No one should be taking this for that like that.
I think that there's some stuff around that though. There's a whole microdosing thing. I don't know anything about it, and I feel like that's the kind of thing. If you don't know anything about it, you should probably just keep your mouth closed.
I do agree. Well, still, R.I.P. to Phil Donahue and Matthew Perry. All right, here's another positive concept here today. Holy hell! How would you feel if you owned a house on one of the coasts here, and next thing you know, it's being swept into the ocean? What do you do in that instance? Because that's happened 3 times now in the North Carolina region just in the last week alone, due to different things. It was Debbie, and then it was torrential flooding. Like, I don't even know what I would do. I would just sit there and just be like, "Yep, there goes my house."
I think the only saving grace to that is like there's nothing you can do. I mean, there's something you can do in the sense that you probably should have realized that living on an erosion prone area right next to the coast is not the best thing for the longevity of your house, especially with the current climate. But otherwise, you're just like, well, there it goes. Like, I don't know what else you're going to do besides laugh about it. Like, well, there goes my house. That
I was
sucks.
I was reading something from a real estate point of view that the insurance on those houses is almost as much as the interest that is being charged on those houses. Like, it is insane how much insurance you have to pay just to have one of those houses.
Look, man, I don't feel really that much sorry for people when those kind of things happen. Like, you know how the climate is changing. You know where you live. If something like that happens to you, then you were risking it. The only thing that bothers me about it is I don't think that the rest of us should have to pay higher insurance rates because you want to live right next to the coast on a mountain where it's going to fall into the ocean any second. Like, that's your bad choice. Why should I have to pay for that?
So and this is a question for anyone out there that's watching. If you had to live in an area that's prone to, I don't want to say cultural weather issues, but we'll say that. Which area would you take the chance on? Would you live on the coast? Would you live like in a hurricane area, like Louisiana? Would you live in a like California where there's wildfires? Where would you take your risk at?
I would probably take the risk of where I live right now, which is Seattle, which, if anybody knows anything about the Cascadia subduction zone, we're
Jesus.
overdue for basically the largest earthquake in all of human history that's going to destroy the entire area. But nobody here has earthquake insurance, and you're just kind of hoping it doesn't happen while you're alive.
Yeah, that would be terrible, and the podcast would cease to exist if your computer got molted by lava.
But it's a risk thing, right? Like, do you want to live in an area on the coast or in the mountains or someplace where there's more things generally to do and there's a little bit of a risky situation, or do you want to live as a person from Kansas? I feel like I can say this. Do you want to live in Kansas? Like, do
But
you want
see,
to risk the chance of having an earthquake in a fun place, or do you want to live in Kansas where you're kind of safe, but you live in Kansas?
are you safe in Kansas? Isn't that in the middle of Tornado Alley?
Yeah, but I mean, I've been through a bunch of tornadoes. It ain't that big.
Jesus. I don't know. I just watched Twisters and they look pretty friggin' scary to me.
Yeah, they're pretty scary, man, but you just prepare for it. Like, this is the thing that I would, since we seem to be on this kick now about talking about how we used to work in news, or at least I used to work in news, you usually find out that when something happens to somebody, there was a way that they could have avoided that situation, and they didn't. It's
Yeah.
usually, you can tie it back to somebody's fault, that like, oh, my house got swept away in this hurricane. What a freak accident. Well, you built it on stilts next to an eroding mountain. That's probably why that happened.
What do you think's gonna happen? No, I'm just kidding.
It's like, what did you think was
Like,
going to happen? So people are usually pretty much at fault for their own circumstances in life when you get right down to it.
true. All right. There's actually a couple of fun things, believe it or not, on this list. Not all.
Okay, all right.
Would you rather have one long arm or one long leg?
Oh, one long arm, because I could reach things. And if you had one long leg, that would throw off your whole balance. Like, you could exist pretty well with just one long arm. I would almost say it'd be handy. You'd be great at things. It'd almost be better to have one long arm.
You just be just fucking.
Right? Like, think of the amount of, like, if you had one long arm and you were a baseball player, like, the amount of whip you could create with that. Way better, I think, to have one long arm.
Or
One
just
long
be like,
leg is useless unless it's in the middle.
well, yeah. Remember, it's a PG podcast here. Let's see. Last question. Believe it or not, we're just moving through these things. What is the more useless animal? And these are house pets. A gerbil, a goldfish, or a cat.
Well, I mean, a cat and a gerbil, at least you can kind of potentially, like, snuggle up with or pet or have some sort of physical comfort from them in some way. Like a goldfish to me is like, why even get that as a pet? Especially if it's just one goldfish. Like, maybe it's your first one. I could see getting it for a little kid, but I don't know why an adult would get a goldfish. Like, just tough it out, right?
Just-
Like, don't half-ass it that much. Either get a real pet or don't get a pet at all.
Or just be like my parents and show up randomly one day with piranha, because that's apparently what people kept in their fish tanks.
They just wait. They gave your kids a piranha, or they just showed up at your house with a piranha?
My parents brought home like 4 piranhas and put them in our fish tank. And then my dad was shocked when they started destroying everything in the. Can we swear on YouTube Live?
I think you can.
On the fucking fish tank. And
What?
like then he was afraid to clean the thing because these things became, I mean, they're naturally aggressive fish. Like, what do you think's gonna happen, Dad?
He didn't think that one all the way through. He just didn't think that one all the way through, right? Like, I wouldn't buy a piranha and be like, oh, it's just gonna get along with these other fish perfectly fine.
Yeah,
He should have done a little bit of research.
probably. But I mean, I'm his spawn, so I mean, you see doesn't fall too far from the tree in the Shull household, I don't think.
Okay, what percentage do you think you are different from your parents?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. Percentage difference? I guess I'll say I'm at least 50% different.
Oh, I think you may be 50% now, but I bet as you get older that number gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
I would say maybe I could say maybe 50%, but I think my number's going down pretty quick. I do some things where like, oh god, I'm becoming like my parents. I can
No, I
see
mean,
it.
I try my best not to. My thing is I'm like a physical like
Copy.
twin of my father. So that's my problem.
Oh yeah, that's hard.
Like,
That's hard. I have some of the same like physical mannerisms as my dad. Like I
yeah.
move kind of in the same way that he does, or I sit in the same way that he does. But that's yeah, I would say 50%, but it's getting up there. It's increasing in that like nobody wants to become their parents.
No, nobody does. Nobody wants to. And even if you say you do, that's an effing lie. It's an effing lie.
Yeah, unless your parents like really rich,
Well,
you want to be like
we do
them.
have we do have several ways you can donate to the podcast. So just give us
Oh,
some of
we
that
got a
money
Patreon now.
for exclusive content, right?
Yeah, well, exclusive ad free. It's like one of those words that it supposedly means something, but it's not. It's not really. But it's ad free. We have a Patreon. I probably should have thought ahead of this and gotten the link for it, but I didn't do that. But we do have a Patreon now. If anybody wants to support us, we
Yeah.
appreciate that.
All right. Well,
Okay.
speaking of, let's get to the best part of the show, or so I've
Okay.
been told.
So our top five is top five celebrities named after birds. Who's your number five?
So my first question to you is: did you go with the most known actors and actresses with bird names, or did you go with like the best ones?
I went with the most significant celebrity with a bird name. But then
Okay.
if the bird name, if there was like close,
Hmm.
then I chose who had the better named bird. So for example, these neither of these are on my list, but if you had like Jay Leno and Sheryl Crow and I thought that they were exactly the same, I like the Jay more than I like the Crow, so I would have put Jay Leno above Sheryl Crow.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Well, in saying that, my number five, I went with Dan Quayle.
I thought about Dan Quayle because his name is Dan Quayle,
Yeah,
and
like
he couldn't. For people who maybe are younger and don't remember, like that was the guy who was a vice presidential candidate under somebody I can't remember, but he couldn't spell potato.
no, he was the vice president.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, under George H.W. from whatever 89 to 93. Yeah.
Okay. I could see Dan Quayle. I mean, you could make an argument that like he had a significant impact if you really kind of knew about things like that. Otherwise, I wouldn't quite frankly put him in my top 10.
Oh,
But
I only went with it because a quail. I mean, he has to be the only famous quail in ever, right? I mean, come on.
he doesn't spell it the same way that you spell quail.
He does not know, but
It's spelled a little differently.
you pronounce it the same way, so it's good in my book.
My number 5 is Russell Crowe. In my mind, responsible for one of the single greatest movie scenes of all time when he says his name is Maxis Decimus Meridius. He turns around. That's one of the greatest movie scenes in my opinion of all time. Like you're
Well,
like, yeah.
fortunately, they're about to ruin that movie franchise because they're making Gladiator 2. So
That didn't need a sequel, man. That's one of those movies that like that they didn't need a sequel.
no, like not even close.
Not even
It's
close.
it's like who in their right mind was like, yeah, we're gonna make a part two to this. I mean, come on, man, just
But
terrible.
they got some big name actors for it, which makes me seem that like okay, the kind of actors that probably had some choices. So maybe they looked at the script and was like, okay, this is actually good.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, who's your number 4?
My number four is Larry Bird.
I don't think that Larry Bird should be on the list. I don't think he counts.
Why? Because his last name is just a bird.
Yeah, but he's not named after a bird. His last name is Bird.
But
So
technically,
he's
he is named after Bird because
but
it's
okay,
Bird.
okay. So look up on Google and show me the bird that is just named Bird.
I mean, I'm sure there's a bird just named Bird.
It's just called Bird. That's why I
Bird.
don't think that Larry Bird should be on there because he's not named after a bird. His name is Bird. There's no bird named Bird. So I don't think that he should count.
What's your number 4? I'm trying to find this out here.
Steve Martin.
Okay. All right. That's a good one.
Martin. I would have put him high. That's an example of somebody who I would have put him higher on the list, except a Martin isn't a bird that I really even know what it is. So I think that while he is very high up there, the bird he is named after brings him down a little bit.
Well, it's funny that you have a Martin in your list because my number 3 is Martin Sheen.
I just don't think of a martin as a bird. Like, I don't even know what a martin looks like. Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
Right. That's what I think holds them back. I don't know what a martin even looks like.
Let's see here.
Now I have to look it up. What does a martin even look like? My number 3, though, while you're doing that, is Taylor Swift.
Oh, shit. I had it up.
What did you do?
There it is. There it is.
Oh, did you mess it up?
No, I brought it to you.
Oh, I wasn't looking. I was looking at something else. I was looking up. Oh, a purple martin.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That's an okay bird. I don't really feel like... Did you in your research, did you decide to agree with me about Larry Bird? That he shouldn't be on the list because Bird isn't... Like, there's no bird that's named Bird?
It's fine. I mean, it's... Sure. I mean, I can replace him with several others, so... Technically, you're right. Yes.
Yeah, my number 3 is Taylor Swift. Who's your number 2?
Robin Williams.
Oh, that's my number 2, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird that we have the same number 2.
I think that probably means we have the same number 1. Who's your number 1? Has to be.
On the count of 3.
1,
1, 2,
Tony
3.
Hawk.
Ethan Hawke.
You put Ethan Hawke above Tony Hawk and
I mean-
Robin Williams?
I mean, I think it's a cool last name, a Hawk. Tony Hawk too. I forgot about Tony Hawk. It could be Tony Hawk.
Forgot about it. I think it's Tony Hawk because if you look at the industry that he was in, he was the most consequential person in that industry.
Yeah, I tell it.
We've talked about.
We've never done this, but I'll go the same one too with you because Tony Hawk. I forgot about him, but yeah, I mean, basically on that list. I mean, you can say Robin Williams, Larry Bird on my list were super influential in their professions, but I mean, skateboarding mainstream is what it is because of what Tony Hawk did and started.
Yeah, he was the biggest name in his profession. Like, you could make an argument like, okay, Robin Williams was very famous, but somebody else probably could have kind of done that. You know, if it wasn't him, it would have been somebody else. I think Tony Hawk was really one of a kind.
Well, and
Why
I think
would you
so.
put Ethan Hawke above Robin Williams?
Because I was trying to think of like birds that are strong, you know, like falcon, hawks. I was like, oh, Ethan Hawke. And I completely misplaced, you know, Tony Hawk. Didn't even come into my vernacular.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that. He's almost the first one. When I think of bird names, celebrities named with bird names, though, it's definitely for me Tony Hawk, Larry Bird. I don't necessarily think about like Robin Williams or Jay Leno, Russell Crowe.
Yeah, I mean, like any of the Martins, you know, like I didn't even know a Martin was really a bird till I looked up a list. So
Yeah, I didn't really know it was a bird either, to be honest with you. Looks like a crow to me. It looks like a fake crow. Who's on your honorable mention?
let's see. So I put on Lynn Swan.
I thought about that. That might be, along
football
with
player.
Tony Hawk, the best like name. Like,
Yeah,
Lynn Swan's a good name.
That's a pretty good name. Sheryl Crow, Russell Crowe, Jay Leno, and I did have Martin Short on here, but I like Martin Sheen better, so that's why I gave him the nod.
Yeah, I would go with Martin Short over. If I was going to rank my Martins, it would be Steve Martin, Martin Sheen, and then last would be Martin Short.
We could have put Martin Lawrence on here, I guess.
Oh, I would put Martin Lawrence above both Martin Sheen and Martin Short. For me personally,
Oof.
I love that show. Martin. It's a good show. The only people I didn't name that are already Sheryl Crow, Florence Nightingale. That's a great name.
That's a solid name.
That's all I got. I'm gonna stop it.